to be fair, PCs are damned expensive. Up it, there it is. The love is happening now.
Hi, Shadow. That's never happened before.
I know. How weird is that?
I think he's getting ready to do it again.
The reason that I'm getting that much computer is because, well, sadly, getting one that is in line with what I think that I really need is still 3/4 of the cost of buying that one. So I'm already most of the way there, and it's a backup machine for my wife because she's getting upgraded to this setup. And that way, if she ever has computer trouble, it's an easy way of her building the covers and doing the video work, the image work that she needs to do.
Right. Yeah.
Through Photoshop and InDesign and those programs. I'm building a machine that is capable of effortlessly handling those. And I'm mirroring what she's getting. So yeah, way more than I need, but I can deal with it.
No, it's kind of like me with shoes now. Because they're always changing shoe models. When you find a pair of shoes you like, you really should buy like 3 pair of the same one.
One
just
thing
store them away for 10 or 20 years.
Yeah, pretty much. One thing that is going to be pretty sure is unless something goes catastrophically wrong with this system, I probably won't have to replace my computer anytime in the next 10 to 15 years.
That's the hope. Well, plus, once it's done with being able to be compatible with Microsoft, you just install Linux on it and throw in LibreOffice, and you can still use it as your writing machine if you want.
You know, I'm buying the processor I'm getting is an i9 12th generation. Looking at my computer that I currently have, it's an i5 4th generation.
Oh, yeah.
So it's still doing everything I need to do. I don't see this new one going out of style for what I need to do.
No, I don't. I mean, my MacBook Pro is what, 7, 8 years old now. I'm still using it, although I curse at it every time I boot into the fucking thing because it's got a few. It had a few foibles before I nuked it and put on Linux, but its foibles are now getting a little more problematic. So it may be headed to the laptop graveyard soon. And now my iPad is completely out of everything, and it will not be able to upgrade to the next version of iOS. And there's already a lot of programs that can't even install and fuck with. And the keyboard broke on it, so I can't replace the keyboard. So now I have no portable writing machine other than my phone.
I wrote a couple of books on my phone.
I'm just kind of ticked. I can still use my iPad. I just have to use it with a Bluetooth keyboard. So that's probably where I'm going with. I just don't have an easel that fits the iPad to make all that easy. There's always a solution.
Maybe I just need to donate you my iPad Mini 1.
No. I don't need anything like that. The iPad still works. It's old. Everything's old except my Mac Mini. I was
pointing out that I have an iPad Mini 1. It's pretty old too.
Carrie's got, I mean, her Air wouldn't update. And she's like, I think it's finally just broken. I was like, okay, why don't you just wipe it and start over? And so she did. And she did something else with it. And then it started just working after a new install. So it's like it's like an 8 or 9 year old Airbook. I mean, it can't be updated to Monterey or whatever. So it's been in there a long time and it's never been flashed. So she finally destroyed it and it started working again. So it's like, yeah, we're going to eke a few more months of use out of this. Should I ever have money again, there will be time to upgrade a few things. I don't know what I'll upgrade them with yet, but I do with the laptop. I have a dream laptop in mind. But it is expensive. That it's almost a luggable. think it weighs like 4.57 pounds. Nice. Thomas loves you.
I think I have poked holes all over me now.
What were you thinking? Why did you do that?
I was hoping you'd stay there while I sat down. Come here, boy. Yep, I got up here. You can't stop me.
Shadow's now having a bath. So after every time I moved my coffee cup to a different hand, he moved around so he could bump the elbow holding the cup of coffee. So no matter what hand it was, he was bumping my elbow. That's why I was having issues.
Yeah, I even ran past the computer specs with the wife on her machine, and she made the decision to go ahead and spend the extra money. So,
I'm not questioning the decision.
It is what it is.
I am not questioning the decision. You buy a hell of a lot more than you need because you can be stuck with a long time.
With all of the damn stuff that I'm buying to go along with these computers, between my wife and myself, we're spending probably about $11,000.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of money. It's a car.
Yeah, when you say it like that, shit.
Mm-hmm. But it's something that's deductible. It's something that but we've been babying along the PCs we have and dealing with the troubles that they cause us for a lot of years. So it's a spend once and put it on the insurance and not have to deal with it again.
Understood. Like I said, at some point I'm going to have to address this. But
the thing is going to have an 8 terabyte SSD drive as its storage inside of it. So I'm
now
spending more money than I have to.
Now you have all the space for porn you could ever want, is what you're telling me.
I beg to differ. You can never have too much space for porn.
See, the machine he's got is going to have tensor cores, so now he can have his artificial intelligence go through there and start, putting together the best versions of porn for him based on his proclivities.
There you go. It's gonna go ahead and figure it all out what I need to watch. Show me, computer, what is the next porn I need to look at?
And it's going to do all of this while you're writing about Space Marines. Got it.
And then suddenly I'm going to be downloading Space Marine porn from somewhere. I'm not sure where, but who knows?
Okay. Somebody has made Space Marine porn. It has to have happened.
Probably.
There's probably Halo porn out there.
Oh my God, there probably is.
Where Master Chief gets busy with Cortana, I got.
I don't know much about the entire universe. All I know is his name, but yeah, I can sort of see that wearing the helmet. Never takes the helmet off. And wait a minute. Never takes the helmet off. I wonder if there's Judge Dredd porn.
Oh,
where he never takes the helmet off ever.
Oh God. Huh. Don't take off the boots. You can leave your hat on. It's a great song. Yeah, I don't know about this, Terry.
Yeah, I don't know about it either. But like I said, I'm buying everything that I could possibly need in a computer this time, and I should be good for a decade.
Yeah, you should be good for a while. You should be good for a long time.
I'll be a senior citizen by the time I need a new PC.
Shit, I thought you had already reached that age. Anyway, hey,
I'm going to implant the PC in my brain.
Well, let's hurry up and get that done. What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
Well,
hey, have you heard about what happened in Zambia? Everybody with brain implants got turned into Bitcoin miners.
Oh my God. If you have not read Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson, you really should read Snow Crash. There is a similar parallel to what he just said in that book. It's gloriously fucked up. It's a great book. Go read it if you're not familiar. You just walk into a school, like all the kids are wired up to the electrical outlets, and there's just like bolts running, you can actually see the Bitcoins being mined. And every time one of them solves the algorithm, their hand goes up. Ding, 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 ding. That's perverse.
Gold
Man.
star for you.
That is so perverse. We figured out that, well, computers are too expensive to produce, and well, there's a parts problem, and they make a lot of heat, and don't really used way too much energy. So we decided to go grab kindergartners, hook them up, and keep feeding them pixie straws every 5 minutes.
The fun thing when I'm ordering my computer first, and about 2 months later, we'll order Donna's. When hers gets here, I have to go ahead and clone the SSD drive that she's using because she wants to use a better quality, better speed drive than I'm going to use.
For Photoshop.
Just a little bit.
For Photoshop.
For Photoshop, yeah. But, I've looked on the interwebs and I've seen the YouTube videos. It doesn't seem like cloning a hard drive is all that difficult. So we'll see how that works out for me.
It's not.
It's a NVMe PCI 4 plugin type of SSD. So I've never dealt with those, but it seems straightforward enough.
It should be. It should be.
And these computers that we're buying, they come with part of their cost is buying 4 years of their pro business support warranty. So if anything goes wrong, they'll actually send somebody to my house to fix it.
Right.
So we're paying, that's at least a chunk of what we're paying right there.
God damn it.
He says, I've got to love your coffee cup, Dad.
I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna fucking kill him. Don't you raise your paw at me.
I was going to take you out.
You're raising your paw at me.
Here's my pimp paw.
Go nap.
It'll be interesting to see how the computer works with the fiber I've got in the house, because it comes with Wi-Fi 6. The wireless router I have downstairs is Wi-Fi 6, and I've got fiber attached to it. So I should have, without a cable, a good enough connection to have the show without having to drag this damn cable all over the house.
What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Do you know what I was up to this week?
No. What were you doing?
I got my fourth booster, or second booster, I should say.
I got mine week and a half, 2 weeks ago, something like that.
Yeah, so that kind of knocked me down for a day or two, but I got some writing done on Oceania and got a whole bunch of that figured out. And then I sent Severed an email and said, hey, what's going on with Station 3? And he's like, oh, it's coming out tomorrow. Is that soon enough? So it launched on Friday. I don't have any of the promo materials yet, so I haven't been able to put together any kind of real official announcement for it. But it is out in the wild. And there were people talking about buying it immediately and devouring it. And then there's all these questions about podcasts, and there's all these other questions about other shit. So it's been kind of interesting to watch all of that happen. Cut it the fuck out.
He says no.
Stop it. Yeah, that I don't mind. You can do that all day long. What I just tell you.
He listens so well.
He does. So Station 3 is out in ebook. I don't have the trade paperback stuff yet. It's not out. I'm thinking Severed's probably going to make an official announcement Monday or Sunday. Sunday our time, Monday theirs. We'll see. Let's see what else. What else is going on? I don't know. Oceania, I'm trying to finish up this arc, dude. We're at 68K, and I just have not finished up this arc. It will not stop. Oh, no. I know what I was going to ask you. So anyway, that was my week, besides dealing with Crazy Cat and then, taking dog to the vet, because that's my life now. All of that is over, and now we're back to writing and hopefully getting back to recording, because I'm way late on a lot of shit. But I've now written 10,000 words ahead of where the patrons are. So that's some good buffer. I just need to record more episodes. But
by
now
the way,
I
keep getting Vela bonuses.
Do what now?
I keep getting Vela bonuses.
Vela bonuses?
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
Remember Vela, the serialized Amazon platform?
Yeah. At
I
first, I
haven't
thought you
posted a
said
new
Vellum.
episode in like
Forever.
6 months at this point, and I still keep getting bonuses.
Oh my God.
It must be sucking hard.
It is. I joined I've been on Mastodon for quite a while actually, but I haven't been using it because there was nobody there. And
Keep
it's
talking.
grown.
I'm listening.
It's grown quite a bit from what it was when I last used it. But somebody was posting on Mastodon about their Vela. They're talking up their Vela story and everything else, and I've been seeing some other folks doing that on Twitter, and of course Discord and whatnot. What else? But I had forgotten the thing and completely existed until I saw that post, and I was just like, I wonder how the Vela authors are doing.
Some are doing great. Most are doing terribly.
Ugh.
I don't think the platform is going to make it. Amazon may surprise me, but I don't think it's going to happen. They're just not getting the readership they need for it to support itself.
Can you think of any reason or any way to fix that?
I hadn't given it any thought, and I have no idea.
Just curious. Because I certainly don't see one. I don't think they've done a good enough job of marketing it, selling it, or making people understand what it is.
I don't think there's enough of an audience for it.
And that's the other problem. I think it's actually too expensive for what it is.
Even if it was cheaper, I don't think that enough people consume their fiction that way. Not here, not in the United States.
Not in the United States. Not the United States. Not yet. Not yet. These days, you might actually get more bang for the buck of doing that on your own freaking website and taking Patreon donations or whatever else for doing it. You might actually make more money that way than you would Vela.
You might, but I know a number of people that are prolific authors writing on Royal Road that have translated their stuff from Russian into English and sell books of what they've already covered. It's not stopping them from doing what they're doing, but they've got long-running serials that, like, for example, the one I'm thinking of, Book 15 is coming out in a few months.
Oh, my God.
Book 15. In the same story.
Sounds like some horrible thing Paul Cooley would write. Yikes. 15 books, same story.
Sadly, I wish their translations were a little bit better.
Yeah, it's always a risk, isn't it? That's always a risk. I think basically if you find a translator you like, who like the translator who did Remembrance of Earth's Past, by the author whose name I cannot pronounce to save my life. I would read something else that translator did, because the translation was glorious, and I think it pretty well conveyed the cultural deviations between what he wrote and what maybe are. I think it explained more of the phraseology of Mandarin in the way it was translated, and also the author cognizant of differences in how things were, certain images were perceived. And I think that made a really big difference for the book, because it didn't feel like a foreigner wrote it. What it did feel like is that it was written by somebody who has a holistic perspective of the entire world, even though that's probably not the case. But it was somebody working through the different problems of politics, religion, culture, the differences in how they saw the world and what their kinds of solutions are, what enmities and proclivity for self-sabotage that they have based on their egos. At least in the second book. That's one of the reasons I found the second book so fascinating, is because it really discerned the different cultures and how they kind of vibrated against one another in trying to solve the same problem. So I found that extremely fascinating. But yeah, I would try that translator again in a heartbeat. I would also try the narrator again in a heartbeat. Did a really, really good job.
Sadly, narration and translation, very pricey.
Yeah, good translation, good narration, very pricey. Yes.
Well, translation a lot more than narration, I think.
If you're talking about navels, yeah.
Navels?
I did that just to see if you were paying attention. Yes, I said navels. What are you going to do about it?
Obviously, we need to have either an orange or a ship battle, one or the other.
How
Possibly
about both?
some jelly.
Possibly both. So I looked up Station 3 today, and I was groggy. I went up there to check it out, see if it had any reviews. They have one.
This sucks.
Pretty much. No, I got a really good review. It was from one of the patrons. I hadn't looked at the categories until it ranked. It ranked in 2 Space Marine categories. And my response was to shake my head and go, are we really going to go down this path again?
More Marines.
Now, in truth, here's the thing. Here's the thing that's so fucking confusing about this. I can't say it's a bad thing because it's not a military unit, but it is functioning as a fire team functions. And I think it's pretty true to that kind of comm situation, discipline, and everything else. So I don't think people who like the standard military structure and believability of what these people are, I don't think there's going to be any problem with that. I hope not. They don't use any titles like colonel, sergeant, or whatever else. They don't use any of that stuff. There's no rank that's like that. So it's a little bit, a slip shot. Think mercenary company. So that might actually be a good thing. We'll see. We shall see.
That would be a hell of a story, a fun story to write.
What's that?
Where you're going to go ahead and have something Marine-ish, something fighting-ish, something in space like that. But instead of your usual story,
oh, no.
You have the aliens come along and abduct a company of military contractors. They picked the wrong ship to steal, basically, out of the ocean.
It's a prison ship.
had like a company of Blackwater operatives or whatever aboard it. I don't know any other military company names, so
Wagner.
But you get
Wagner
the idea there. Instead of, we've kidnapped these humans. Oh no, these humans just took over our spaceship. Oh shit.
Exactly. We picked the wrong people. You can either pick the dumbest people of the whole group, the cons, or the kill teams. And yeah, you could make bad choices all around. All around.
That would be a fun kind of book to read. A story by civilian military contractors taking over an alien spaceship and trying to figure out how they either A, get back home, or B, go do whatever the hell they want to do.
Well, this is true.
What are we going to do, Bob? What's Command say? Command's not here, Bob. Then I guess we're going to do what we want to do.
We're going to do what I think we can accomplish. Nothing more.
We're not going to have those idiots in charge telling us what to do. We're going to do what we think is best.
Yeah, that works out.
What do we do best, Bob? Kill people.
Zilf makes that comment in Station 3. One good thing about biologicals, and Yuri goes, what? And he says they burn real easily. And Yuri looks at him and goes, sometimes, Zilf, you scare me. They burn real easy. Oh, yeah. So, somebody in Discord was trying to find an episode from 2000.
Yeah, I saw that from 2008. Good luck with that.
So, why don't we address the topic that was asked?
All I saw was 2008, and I don't even remember what the topic was now.
The topic was, Well, here's the actual statement. I'm sure this is a long shot, but way back in '08, DRS talked about naming characters and how readers will generally make up a name or shorten the name if it's too long. Does anyone know what episode that might have been? No, we have no freaking clue. The hosts have no freaking clue. Terry was
I'm
probably on that show. I don't think I was.
I don't know that I was on that show. 08's an awful long time ago.
It might, yeah. That's technically before I started podcasting.
I don't honestly recall talking about it, but then again, I don't remember what I had for lunch yesterday either.
Anyway, so I have a character with a really freaking long name. There's a couple of ways to deal with this. You can deal with it like Yuda actually does by shortening his name to Yuda. It's the first two syllables that us Westerners can pronounce easily. The rest of it just kind of turns into this muddle in our mouths. So if I have a character who's got an obscenely long name, by Western standards, they're going to get a nickname. Everybody is going to give them a nickname. It's either going to be a shortening of their first name, their middle name, or their last name, but they're going to get a handle because nobody's going to go through. Nobody who knows that person is going to go through the pain and suffering of trying to pronounce an entire sentence for a name, especially not when you're trying to get their attention very quickly over command structure or any kind of comms for their job. It's not going to happen. There's going to actually be some kind of shortcut for that.
One of the flip sides of that is like you see writers give aliens these long, unpronounceable names. They also have to give them these short names because they know that nobody is going to be able to pronounce it. But the secret, I think, is even if you put the long name in there, people would associate it. They wouldn't try to pronounce it. When it gets incomprehensible, you find some pattern you can recognize out of it, and then you go on.
But it's easier if the characters do it, I think, rather than the author doing it.
Maybe. I'm talking the reader. I'm saying if I read a long name that was like this alien name, I would find something out of it to recognize.
Right.
To differentiate it from the other long and incomprehensible alien names that might be in the book.
I agree.
And I've actually read a book that was like that, where they didn't give them short names. And I was like, oh, this is tough. All right, I can see this and this. All right, this is this character.
And that's why I think in those instances, it's better if the narrator goes ahead and gives them a short name. That's what I'm saying. So in other words, even if their name is some incomprehensible thing, blah, 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 but you can call me Bob.
I was literally thinking that exact same sentence, including Bob.
I think it's better if the writer does it because then there's so many opportunities for inside jokes. Especially if you have alien species or people from different cultures, there's so many inside jokes that they may not get, but the people do. And it may start out as a hazing kind of thing where everybody's in on the joke except this person or being or entity, whatever else. And then you can slowly show that changing. Maybe the inside jokes become a little less mean. Maybe they become a little more funny. Maybe they become a little more punny. Maybe they become a little more endearing over time. That shows how, the integration of all of that kind of works in those nicknames, how they're said, the way they're in the context they're used.
I was reading something about Native American culture. And I recently got a role-playing game that was written by Native people. And I think something I read out of there was talking about the naming structure. And I don't know that this is true of our of the ancestral Native Americans, but the way they put it in the book would work well for aliens as well, where you've got a name that everyone knows. You've got a name that your family knows. And you've got a name that only you know, or only your very closest of most intimate friends know.
Muad'Dib.
More Dune references?
Yeah, Muad'Dib, his tribal name was Usul. And then his real name was Paul Atreides. His personal name, I guess you would say, is Paul Atreides. His tribe name was Usul, and then his Everything name was Muad'Dib.
I had never read the books, so I did not know.
I think that was a progression. I can't remember. They give him a name after he conquers or shows them how to battle, and they win a couple. That's when I think they name him Muad'Dib, when he starts commanding a group. I can't remember. Anyway,
we'll find out in the next movie.
Still haven't seen the first one.
Let me go ahead and assure you that you should see the first one.
You talked about this 2 weeks ago. I know all the reasons why I should.
It was
yada, yada,
yada. Much longer time than 2 weeks ago, but it was the most cinematic movie I've seen in many years. It was amazing. Even somebody that did not know everything about it was amazed. So there you go.
Okay, well, good to know. Again, it's in the
by queue. Now it's probably streaming. I'm sure you can see it somewhere.
I can. It's available. It's available. There's just a lot of shit going on right now. So right now I'm completely focused on Oceania, and now I have to get focused back on Station 3's audio, which I've been neglecting.
You've got so many irons in the fire. I've got to finish this book so that I can start the next book in this series.
Yeah.
You know the reason why I've got to go ahead and do that?
Because why?
Because the book 2 of this series came out this month. It's only been out, I guess, a couple of weeks, a little bit less than a couple of weeks, somewhere around a couple of weeks. And still this month, my share of the earnings on it is, if I wanted to spend the money, enough to pay for both Donna and my computer.
Okay.
That's why. Which it's comparable this month, my earnings, with the rest of my earnings for all 24 of my own books plus co-written books.
Right.
It's in the same ballpark. So the earning potential in this new series is significantly higher if I get the more books written. So it's getting my attention.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I'm not going to hold that against you. You know, just like if Station 3 knocks it out of the park, which I'm dubious about regardless. I better get my ass in gear on Signal Decay. But I still have to get Arrival re-edited, portions rewritten. I still have to dig into Outbreak. I still am waiting for the finished script from Red Adept to come back so I can give that to the voice actor. And then they have to get all the release schedule stuff, and I'm still waiting on artwork. So it's like I'm sitting here waiting on all this shit, and by the time I get to it all, it's going to be like a mess.
It'll all land on your ass at the same time, is how it works.
Yeah, and then of course robots. So basically, the thunderclouds have gathered, and I'm getting struck by lightning a lot. So it sounds to me like our consensus is that find a shorter name for the character.
Start off with a shorter name. Don't make it hard intentionally. That's bullshit.
Unless it's a formal thing. But you can decide whether the group gives them a nickname or whether they nickname themselves.
You can imagine somebody coming up with one of these Russian patronymic names and just laying it all out there for you.
Well, I mean, the Chinese...
Or like the Spanish names, the way they used to do them.
Oh, God. Well,
Juan Carlos. Yeah,
that's kind of like the way Yuda's name was going. He had like 11 names or some shit like that. It's culturally strange for us, but I get it. Still, there's got to be a way to shortcut that. Even if you have that formal title name, then it becomes the joke, right? You know, blah, 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 call me Bob. It just depends on how you're working it in the story, but you need to think about that because it will be less confusing for the reader if they can associate a 2 or 3 syllable at most name with that character. They'll remember who that is, rather than having this long, ridiculous thing with all these diacritical marks. Does anybody even understand how to pronounce diacritical marks? I mean, does the average person even get that?
No, I don't either. So there you are. And sometimes you can get away with funny titles.
Oh, yeah. Shit that doesn't translate well.
Well, even if it does translate well, circumstances, you can arrange circumstances to have weird titles. For example, in the Honor Harrington universe that David Weber does, there is a planet of ex-slaves that have set up their own government. They basically shanghaied someone to be their leader because she was the one that inspired them, that fought for them, that did all these things for them. But she didn't want to have power. That was not her style. That was not what she wanted. So she intentionally set it up so that her leadership was very constrained. It was much more lead by example than lead by rules. And so she doesn't have direct power. I think the biggest direct power she has is once a year she can pick someone to banish from the kingdom for a year. That's it. That's what she's got. That's all she wanted. But instead of being Her Majesty, she insisted to be called Her Mousity.
Her Mousity.
Like a mouse. So you could go out of your way to make strange titles that you're like, okay, well, where the hell did that come from? Oh, there's a great story behind that.
My title, where I worked at one of the companies, my title was Menace. That was my actual title. That was my email alias that everybody used, was Menace at company XYZ. I actually ripped that off from somebody else, but I pretty much described everything. Totally described it. Your system admin's name is Menace. This is not going to end well. But yeah, it's funny to integrate the titles in there, and it will tell you something about the culture as well. But the title also conveys, like if a dictator, for instance, has a ridiculously long title they've given themselves, you find out a lot about the person. If it's a silly title, you find out they've got a sense of humor and don't exactly take themselves very seriously. And maybe this is somebody who's not as bad as you think they are.
And then you've got people like the North Korean military where they got all these medals hanging down their legs.
Perfect attendance 2012. Perfect attendance 2013. Semi-perfect attendance.
What they all mean. I have no idea what they all mean. I just know that's an awful lot of medals.
Survived the purge, the great purge of May 2015.
I had somebody finally write me or make a comment on Facebook rather about talking about the uniforms that I used in the last Hunter series, and goes, and he, as an aside, he said, "Oh yeah, and by the way, I saw those Robotech uniforms. Don't think you got away with that."
Oh damn! Terry's been smited.
It's true. They were based off of the Robotech uniforms because I thought I liked the look of them. So yeah, they weren't precisely the same, but I definitely stole the theme.
See, that's better. That's better than you crossing your arms and saying, "How dare you accuse me of?" Yeah, I ripped it off. This story reminds me of thus and such. Yeah, and your point.
It's not like I'm doing a visual image. I'm describing somebody's cut of his jacket and his hat. I mean, there you go. That's not something that's a protected element. If I tried to draw them in that would be a little bit more hinky.
Yeah, you'd be tracing.
Luckily, I can't draw, so there you are.
I can't. I can't either. It's it's both a saving grace and a problem. A very big problem and a saving grace at the same time.
One of the things that I'm doing going through what's taking this edit so much longer is that I am altering the way I'm doing dialogue slightly, as we discussed in a previous episode. Mm-hmm. And it's not as hard as I thought it was, but it is taking about 50% more of the time for me to read it and think about it.
Huh.
So this edit's taking a little longer than if I'd have written it that way to begin with. And as usual, the first quarter of the book was much rougher than the rest of it so far.
Have you gained
why that first quarter is so tough? I do not know.
I've told you before. It's because you're finding your mojo. You're finding your streak. You're finding where the story is actually going. You're getting to learn the characters.
But the weird thing is, I started writing book 3 immediately after writing book 2. So it's not like I even wandered away from the characters.
Still a different story.
Still a different story.
And you're still dragging around the baggage from the previous book, trying to figure out how you're going to solve some of it or bring it back here.
I think that's probably more of an impact than anything else, is you've got to take, in a way that's a self-contained story, the baggage you've left over from the previous story and deal with it so that it's not just, oh, where's the baggage? Lost, gone, sorry.
When you
Airlines.
when you make a series that builds upon itself, that's episodic, if it's true to its nature, it's always going to be, I think, more difficult than the previous book, especially in the first book, because the first book is canon. You can't fuck with it. You've now created these constraints. And if you didn't solve all those plot bunnies in the first book, then people certainly will have the expectation that you're going to revisit those plot bunnies at some point in the future. That also means those plot bunnies are constraints. And you have to be careful about it.
One of the things that I've discovered in the way that I write is the first third of the book is me dealing with all of the garbage I've left over from the last book and getting it into the current circumstances and moving forward. The middle part of it is proceeding on and developing new problems. And then the end of the book is having those chickens come home to roost and all the consequences, and leave some more things over that are going to drag over into the next book. And it's been very successful for me.
No, you've got a good
you've
got a good 3-act play structure going there. That's perfect.
But a lot of people, they want to have their series books self-contained. They don't like having bleed over between the novels. And I found that having bleed over actually improves the satisfaction level of the people that keep reading it.
It depends on the bleed over level, right? If it's derelict, it's bleeding over the entire fucking story because you didn't really solve anything in the last book. It's just a continuation. If you're episodic, then I can see people not wanting to have the bleed over into the next episode. They want everything to start anew, fresh. But at the same time, they've been trained to do that by TV. But if you look at the really popular shows like The Shield and Justified, all that shit,
there are overarching plots that continue from story to story
constantly. From the very first episode, that shit is coming.
And that's what I do. I have some things that continue on, some things that don't. You can close a book out and have satisfaction without solving everything.
Right. And that's the big thing. But if you're writing an episodic series, there's an undeniable, palpable promise, unless the author has said this is the finale and closed everything off, that the next book is going to take up some of those unsolved things. And you're always leaving them in a precarious position, and you expect to come back to that precarious position and solve it immediately so you can move on with the rest. That's the expectation you're setting up. So I think that basically shows like Netflix like Justified and The Shield demonstrate that bleed over is very, very strategically popular, as opposed to the other shows that mainly run on the major networks that don't have it. I think it's a big deal. But
when you look at a series like Star Trek, they very much close off everything. And then you get to something like Deep Space Nine, where they actually let some of those longer things play out over multiple episodes and have consequences. And that's why DS9, in my opinion, is a much stronger show than just the regular Star Trek: The Next Generation.
I think it provides the opportunity for more growth in the characters and the plot. I think it gives minor characters more of a chance to become characters of their own story, which in a lot of ways, in a lot of cases, is very, very powerful. I'm thinking of the Zeppo from the Buffy the Vampire Slayer series, where it's the only time what's his name gets his own episode, Xander. It's a hilarious episode. It's just fucking awesome. Anyway, I think it's important to give those characters those moments because they become more real and help the story along. They help flesh out some of the things for the protagonists and antagonists, as well as move things around. You can't do that unless you have a story that will support those kinds of things. And a lot of episodics will support it if you have this kind of situation. because then you have the buddy approach where these people are kind of always teaming up, or they're cast together, whatever the cohort of these characters are. You have those friendships and maybe uneasy acquaintanceship kind of bouncing around the entire series, and they're easy plot devices to bring you more problems.
And one of the good things about those kind of stories is that you can write, you could pretty much drop a bomb at the end of one book, and then you have the fun in the next book of saying, okay, now how do I overcome what I've just done to myself? In a lot of cases, writers occasionally paint themselves into a corner, and trying to figure out how you're going to get back out of it is fun.
Oh, or nerve-wracking.
Some authors have written themselves into a corner that they did not feel that they could get themselves out of. I'm specifically thinking of the Empire of Man series by John Ringo, where he said that he couldn't figure out how he could write on the story from where he left it off.
Ugh.
And I think that's sad because I really loved that series.
What did he do? Kill off all the characters?
No, he made the main character in charge of the Empire, basically the man in charge, and he couldn't figure out how to keep him involved when he was the man in charge. And that's a terrible way to write yourself into a corner. If you give a character too much power, give them a position that no one in their rightful mind would let them go to a battle, then there you are.
Yeah, I can see that being an issue.
John Ringo has not written a whole lot in years. I think he's had a writing crisis of some kind.
I have no clue.
It's sad. I enjoy his writing.
I've only read, I think, one book or two books by him. I think the only way to get around that is to basically write that into that book as if it is the series finale.
Unfortunately, he didn't leave it as a series finale.
Yeah,
he left a lot still undone, and the forces of evil were still on the move.
Oh, that's what I did not want to have happen with Derelict. I mean, I probably should have abandoned the goddamn thing, but at least I finished it for the people that wanted it finished. I didn't want to abandon that because it was just too much. I couldn't let it go.
One of the ways you can get around that, and you can get around that sort of thing, is if you just don't let it be a constraint. I went ahead and made one of my main characters the heir to an empire in space. And she's still off dragging around doing everything that I want her to do. And I just have not made it so that they try to drag her home.
That seems woefully irresponsible.
And you know how many people have called me out on it? Absolutely zero. Of course, the fact that I don't read my reviews may mean that somebody has said something somewhere, but on the whole, nobody seems to be bothered by it. If you have to realize as a writer that sometimes you're a little harder on yourself than the audience will be.
I hope so. I hope so. I fucking hope so.
I've got a princess running around doing things that no one in their right minds would allow any princess to do. And
my father experiences Oceania week by week. So every Sunday I go over there and he sits there and he gives me this look. Dad has this look.
You. I'm judging you.
Looks at me and he goes, "Why the hell are these people still there? Why haven't they quit? Why are they just got the fuck out of there?"
Sometimes that's a great question to ask.
Because unlike you, they're professional soldiers. That's not good enough. Why are you so mean to these people?
You're such a big old meanie.
Just look at him and I say, they had it coming. And he looks at me. And So I've been able to gauge the crazy of my story every week by how my dad reacts to it when I get there, because he won't say anything until I come to lunch. And then I get to lunch and then I get ripped down to the shreds. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Are you crazy? That was cool. I don't think this is going to end well. Will you just hurry up and get these people eaten?
Yep.
And he's like, we're still in the water. When the fuck are we going to get to the rest of the island? Oh, yeah, I know, Dad. I know. We
To get to the rest of the island, you're going to get to about 200,000 words.
I think the island is going to be at least 30 to 40. And I'm at nearly 70 now. And I think that this ocean battle is 3/4 the way through. So I think I still have 2 full chapters yet before I deal with the problem they currently face. The only question is whether they are really going to solve the problem or only think they've solved the problem.
The answer is they're only going to think they solved the problem. Even I can see that.
But they know they don't know, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be the constant threat for the next piece.
One of the things that I'm doing with the book that I just finished writing is I put the characters in a pretty bad place at the end of the book.
Right.
I pretty much keistered them pretty hard. And now I'm already thinking ahead to the next book and going, all right, I put all the pieces parts in play so that they can manage to mitigate some of the damage that I've done to them. You've got to give them the tools that they can somewhat rescue themselves.
Somewhat.
I can't give any details of what it is. I could explain it and you would understand it, but I can't while we're recording because it would be a major spoiler and I can't do that.
I get that. There's a lot of things I could say.
Part of writing this book and making sure that it was right was putting the tools that they need in place over the last book and this book, so that when the end results of this book happened, they've got a workaround that they can try to undo some of the fuck. They can try to unfuck themselves, as the saying goes. You've went mute. You've muted.
Okay. My cup hit the wrong button. What was I saying? Leaving the pieces in place for them and then not touching them, not really calling too much attention to them after you've called attention to them. I love that shit. Because then you can watch the characters just start picking up the pieces and go, well, I can use this for this. I can use this for this. I can use this for this. Hey, dummy, can you use this for this? Holy shit. Yes, I can. And go down the whole stream of putting this shit together and then still have stuff go spectacularly wrong. Or, hey, this is missing a piece. Where is that? Oh, it's over by the monster. Fuck.
I did 2 separate things that I think is amusing in this book. One, I gave them the tools that they could use to somewhat mitigate the disaster that I'm going to drop on them. And 2, I gave them a tool that would have kept them from getting into this thing in the first place and then fucked it up during the fight. See, the key here is they planned for the potential of having something go wrong. But I did something that took their plan that mitigated the damage and threw it out the window. And now they're having to look for other tools that they can use to try to work around.
Okay, plan C.
Part of the thing is you've got to have your characters be smart. When I finished writing the first draft of this, I sat back and I said, I had the characters do A during the book. That makes no sense. Nobody in their right mind would do A. They must do B, and I have to come up with a reason why that didn't work for them. It's one of those situations where there's a tool at hand that would solve their problems, and there is no reason that they wouldn't have that tool. So I must have a way to take it away from them.
Right.
After they intentionally bring it along.
Right. There's a lot of ways to do that.
And it's something you as a writer need to keep in mind, dear listeners, is that not only do you have to take the tools they have away, you have to give them the foresight to be smart enough to bring the tools they think they're going to need.
And then have them waste them in spectacular fashion.
Exactly so. Exactly so.
At Station 3, I have Zelf do something that I was kind of on the fence about, but I think it's actually worked out really well. Hopefully it didn't break the fourth wall, but I had him use something that was damaged, and he used it to great effect. But he's an engineer. The only reason he knows how to do all the stuff that he knows how to do is because he's an engineer, like a real engineer with anything mechanical. So he's got a few. I gave him those advantages because I took a lot of weapons away from a lot of people, because that's kind of what I do. Throw them in with the monsters and then take all these glorious weapons they have away and say, yeah, you can try and figure out a way out of this. So that was fun to do that, to put those little pieces in there and go, oh, I need to use this. And there was something else I could have used but did not. And I'm still going back going, I should have used that. I should have used that. Anyway, I find those to be really fun. That's what makes the plots kind of really sing, is doing that kind of stuff. And also it's a rush.
When we stop recording, I want to talk over some details of what I've done so that you can smirk with me.
I also think at the end, when you're having the characters rush through what they have to do to make things work, depending on if you're writing a thriller or even suspense, at the end, everything is moving fast. Because you have 5 to 10,000 word absolute sprint where all this shit just starts coming together. The apocalyptic battles get fought or set up and then fought in the next, little tiny arc. You usually got 10 or 15,000 words you're just sprinting through at warp speed because so much shit is going on. That is the culmination of all the work you've done from the early part of the book through the swampy middle and everything else. That is the part where you are jumping in the swim lane and deciding that you are going to win the world record for this 100-meter. And you're going to put on a hell of a show while you're doing it. That is when the book absolutely takes off and just starts circling around your head, screaming to get out of your skull. And I love those moments. It's just such a nice adrenaline rush, and your imagination goes crazy and the keys just start flying. I love those moments. I guess those moments are why I keep doing this. But love that shit. I think that's why I write the way I do. The plots that I do, and I'm guessing it's probably the reason why you write the plots you do too.
Probably. I've written what now? 22 dozen some odd novels that I've written myself from start to finish, that I've published under my own name. I think I may have figured out my own formula.
Yeah. I think you have. I'm starting to get one. I'm starting to get one, which is frightening. Actually, I do have a formula for the black. I have a very easy formula for the black, and it came to me while I was writing Oceania. That
eat everyone.
I've always been doing it this way. I just didn't realize I was doing it this way. That makes any sense. So I have intro, make you love the characters, add weird situations. Middle, oh shit, we're totally screwed. And third part of the book, oh my God, we are so incredibly screwed. We're even more screwed than we thought we were screwed. We either get out of it or we don't, ending. That's the 3 faces of Paul. But I think there are some books that end up being a 5-act. I think there are some books that ended up being a 5-act.
Totally works for some people.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think if you look at most genre fiction, it's going to follow either a 3 or 5-act structure. That's just because of the narrative tradition pretty much all Western cultures have. At least the ones that I studied in college. All the plays always have that kind of structure to them. And really, if it's a 2-act play, it's not really a 2-act play. It's really a 1-act play with an intermission. So it just is a different kind of feel, but it has that suspense and thriller have that structure to them. The constant back and forth, the showing you this, showing you the red herrings all over the place. as well as the MacGuffins, moving this, that, and around. People, suspecting one another's motivations, intentions, and then you add all the drama of whatever slasher or monster or whatever the problem is they're facing. You've got a nice recipe for a book. And the point is, you add those monstrous details either at the very beginning, but don't show everything, or you add those details as the story goes on. You start interjecting more and more and give more and more hints about what's going on, but the characters may not see that.
Telling a story is often like sculpting. You'll rough it out the first time around, and then you'll find places that need to be shaved and emphasized as you go during the editing process.
Yeah, and that's why editing is so important, because you find these raw spots. And just because the raw spots doesn't mean that you have to throw away sculpture. It just means you have to do a little bit more work on those.
A little bit more fine tuning.
And usually that's at the beginning of the book. It's the first quarter of the book, like you said, which is kind of rough because you haven't put all the pieces in place, and you don't know how these people necessarily reacted to the last book yet, because your brain hasn't focused on that. So yeah, in the future, I'm definitely going to be paying much more attention to the first quarter of my books.
Yeah,
That'll be where I spend the most of my editing.
Yeah, in editing, yeah. Good luck fixing it the first time through.
No, it's not happening. Even the serial that I'm writing with Oceania, writing as a serial, which has been an interesting experience. When it's all said and done, I reserve the right to go back and fix it. It's not going to go out as it is, ever. It's going to have to, go through the same process before it ever sees print. And it's not going to see print for quite a while. It's going to be the end of 2023 before Oceania would come out. It's quite a ways away as far as, time goes. What have you done with this silly cat?
She was yelling, so I picked her up. She probably wants me to let her back out again, but I'm not going to do it.
You will not be held hostage?
No, she'll just put her on the stairs and then she'll yell at me to let her back in.
What you're telling me is you can't win. That's what you're telling me.
With cats? Pretty much not.
I sort of won with this one. He's sleeping on the Mac Mini again, so he's no longer moving stuff around. He stopped bumping my elbow for coffee. He stopped doing all of that. It's been wonderful.
Well, we need to pour our last cup of coffee.
Pour our last cup of coffee. Does that mean we're getting the show ready to end?
I think we are.
All right. Well, if you have a comment about the show, you can send an email to show@deadrobotsociety.com. You can tweet me at Paul_E_Cooley. You can find me at Mastodon at Paul E. Cooley at mastodon.social. You can find us on Facebook at Listeners of the Dead Robot Society Facebook group, where Terry wrangles all the madness and mayhem. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/DRS podcast, to see our ugly mugs and so many damn cats. And Shadow seems to actually be making appearances now, which is cool and terrifying.
He needs his own channel.
We have to thank our wonderful host pod hoster who makes all 42,000 bazillion episodes of the Dead Robot Society available for your ear holes,
including ones from 2008 if you really want to go listen to them.
You're insane. And if you want to support the show, you can find us at patreon.com/DRS podcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you get access to exclusive content, live shows, and etc. And at the $10 level, you get your name read. And our $10 patrons are Summer Wilson, Tony L. Joy, Andrew Smallwood, Veronica Jaguar, Rick Shaw, Lisa Slack, Chris Winder, and Isabel Cushy. Thank you to all of our patrons for making this show possible. We don't know why you're here, but we very much appreciate it. And now there's one more thing we got to do. Terry, we're junkies. We have a problem. Fortunately, we have a main line. We have a supplier. We have people for this. Everybody says they got a guy. We got it. We got a guy. We got a hookup. And that's at corpsecoffee.com. You go to corpsecoffee.com, check out their variety of coffees, both whole and ground. I can't think today. As well as their collection of boutique teas and their wonderful web comic. Go to corpsecoffee.com and get that dead in your cup. There, I've done my little sign off. Any wise words you wish to, spread among the masses?
Now I've got a cat messing with the camera. Can you see it moving?
I can see it moving.
She's brushing up against it going, I'm going to rub my face on it.
It's annoying, isn't it? We need shock mounts for our monitors, shock mounts for our cameras, shock mounts for our houses.
I just need to mount a cat on a shock mount.
Okay, folks, with that, we're out of here.